moving on to Bayern against Manchester City, or I should say Manchester City against Bayern, and City will play the first leg at home first. One of the interesting things about City is they're the favorites in this side of the draw, and they've never won it. The favorites in the other side of the draw, Napoli, have also never won it. So it's also kind of cool that if this all goes chalk, according to the bookies' favorites, we're going to have two teams in the final that have never won it before, which I think is kind of a neat little factoid. Both teams involved for now. Again, in a month's time, they may not be in a domestic title race. I would have to say, for me, City are favorites in this game, just because the Pep Guardiola, he can say whatever he likes, but the title, obviously, this is the one thing he has not won at Manchester City. His critics will point out it's the one thing he hasn't won without Lionel Messi. How do we see this going? Because this is the classic thing where you've got two managers who like to, I don't want to say overthink, because I don't believe there's such a thing as overthinking, but they're going to pay a lot of attention to how they line up, and we might see a lot of tweaks when they line up against each other.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the Pep Guardiola derby, of course, as you mentioned, for Carlo Ancelotti going back to Chelsea with Real Madrid. It's also Pep going back to Munich, facing Bayern again, facing Nagelsmann, who very much could be one of the heirs to Pep Guardiola. So it's a bit the master against the apprentice again, like with some other managers. It's a fascinating contest, certainly tactically, between the two. I agree with you in the sense that I feel City are the favorite. I haven't been impressed by Bayern Munich, and I saw them twice against PSG, where they deserve to go through, of course, but they were maybe not as dominant compared to past seasons. They were not as brilliant with the ball, I was going to say. I think defensively they can be really solid, although we saw De Ligt and we saw Pavard at times, even Upamecano, making some mistakes. But I still think with the ball there can be some improvement made there. But if Sadio Mane gets back to his best and fully fit, because they've really missed him in the last 3 months, really, even since the return after the World Cup, for example. If Mane is back to his best, if you've got this incredible power in attack with Sané and Gnabry on the bench, for example, and Coman, Musiala, Müller, Choupo-Moting, Mane, this is has to be, in terms of forwards, maybe even more than City, the best forward line that we have right now in the competition. So if Bayern use that well and Nagelsmann use that well, they can hurt City, of course, but I agree with you. I still would put City slightly favourite.
Can I just say, I love the fact that after his Champions League exploits, including scoring the most important goal in the history of Paris Saint-Germain, you put Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting together with the other stars in the attack. Eric Maxime, you have made it. You have made it, right?
And you know what I want to see as well? I want to see Erling Haaland. I mean, okay, Leipzig, 5 goals. We could discuss, big Orban, Vardiol, but this is another test.
It's another test, and I think actually, look, I mean, this is a team that on paper, I think matches up quite well with Manchester City. You wouldn't say that about a lot of teams, but they have defensively, they certainly have the physical strength to deal with Erling Haaland. There's a lot of flat-out pace and speed at the back of the Bayern back line with Upamecano, Alphonso Davies. So they match up pretty well there. They have the wingers, and they have wingers who can beat you one-on-one, which I think is also, another game changer, because we can talk about tactics and passing all we want, but if your winger dribbles around the other team's fullback, then you have an overload, and then the other team has a problem. And, you talked before about Pep playing with 4 center backs. That's great, but out in the open field one-on-one, there's still center backs having to defend a Gnabry or a Sané. They also have the press that can perhaps disrupt if Müller and Musiala are on top of their game. They can certainly disrupt Rodri and Gundogan or whoever plays in that role. So on paper, I think a lot of individual matchups would favor, not in terms of quality necessarily, but in terms of style, would favor Bayern. So I think this is really, really close and really hard to call, Jules.
Yeah, completely. I agree with you. And also the Joao Cancelo derby, because let's not forget, there's not a clause like we have in the Premier League here that says that he can't play against his current club. So imagine Cancelo feeling when he watched the draw and like, here we go, Pep. We're meeting again.
I love it. That's a guy who will not be lacking for motivation.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.